We're good?
And we are good.
Okay, hear ye. The Protection and Policy Committee meeting for September 24th, 2018, room 207, is now in session. Take a roll call. Alder Stevens.
Here.
Alder Vanderleest.
Here.
Alder Stoyor.
Here.
Should have said Stoner.
No.
Yeah, Alder Scannell is also present. All are here. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Stoyer, seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes for September 10th, 2018 of our protection and policy.
One second, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, that's right. I know better, sorry.
It's okay. All right, go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Alder Vanderleest. Second by Alder Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should I abstain on that? I wasn't there.
Did you look at the minutes?
I did look, so I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay.
You okay with them?
I'm good with them.
Okay. So, should we mark it, move Mark as an aye?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. We're on to regular business in a minute.
We are good to go.
Good to go. Number one, consideration of possible action by an appeal by Tammy Zerwinski, objecting to decision that her dog was declared dangerous. Staff, I believe.
Yes, so the appellant called the clerk's office today. She will not be attending. She does not want to pursue the appeal, so our recommendation would be to deny the appeal.
Motion to deny.
Motion to deny by Alder Stoyer. Second by Alder Vanderleest. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
1 second. Okay. Good to move on.
Item number two, consideration of possible action on an application for a Class A liquor license by Quick Trip Inc. at 515 West Walnut Street. Currently has a Class A license and Class A beverage and Class A cider license previously discussed at September 10th meeting. Staff, do you have anything on this? Or?
Just that this was previously approved by this committee, and then it was referred back at the last council meeting. Just to reiterate, if the committee does want to deny, to state on the record the reason for denial, and I have these little cheat sheets for everybody.
Can we get these into the...
We can into the packet.
Or maybe we should have some of...
I can make maybe laminated ones so that I can just collect them at the end of the meeting, and then we can just reuse them. Okay, because it may not happen, otherwise we would have to scan it in for everything.
Right, well, I'm thinking if we could maybe
Liquor
even
license.
make some kind of packet aside somehow. I don't know, we'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
there's a number of things that may be...
Right, like a reference?
Yeah.
Section? Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm the one who asked to refer this back, and it was because I had some businesses come forward to me. They were a little upset that they didn't feel like they were noticed at all, but I haven't spoken with them since then. They just expect that when they apply, they'll be able to go. It's been an ongoing issue here. I think we're ready to just move on and get this all behind us. So I've got nothing, no one's here that, as far as I know, of the people who were concerned that contacted me before. So as far as I'm concerned, we can just approve this and
Well,
get it to council and get it done and over.
Let's discuss it.
You want to discuss it?
Yes.
Okey-dokey. Should we open the floor? Do you want to discuss it first and then open the floor?
Open the floor first. I make a motion to open the floor.
Motion to open the floor by Alder Stoyer, second by Alder Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the floor is now open. If you're here to discuss this, please come up, state your name and address.
Bob Haynes, 2127 Daily Drive, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311. I thank you for having me today, and my name is Bob Haynes, and I'm a district leader for Quick Trip here in Green Bay. I've been a district leader for 8 years. As far as this license, we have many stores that do have a Class A liquor license. It's something that we do take very, very serious. Starts from day one of hiring people. We hire quality people. We do background checks on our coworkers. We're a drug-free workforce. With that being said, our training starts from day one with putting through all coworkers watching training on it. In my 8 years, I am not aware of any of my stores here in Green Bay that has failed a compliance check with the police department. We also do our own compliance checks. I do approximately 15 to 18 compliance checks a year. Currently this year, we're about a 93% pass rate. Out of those 7% that have failed, it's not that they failed because they didn't ask for an ID, they failed because Quick Trip has higher standards and they did not enter the birthday into the register. So with that, we feel that we're doing everything possible to be responsible with this kind of a license in our stores. And the biggest thing we just ask you is, to judge each retailer on their own merits. And here at Quick Trip, we just don't live by the standard, we go above the standard, so.
Questions?
Well, I'd like to discuss, but I probably have a question or two.
Sure.
Mr. Haynes, thanks for coming in. I have no doubt that, Quick Trip, I shop and get gas at Quick Trip over on Taylor, and, you got some great stores. My issue is more with the neighborhood. So, and granted, we're just talking about the license, but that kind of ties hand in hand, and that's the issue that I have. So, we're going to discuss it amongst ourselves, but I don't know is there anything you can address that way toward the neighbors, some of the issues that they've had?
Well, there has been some issues of the neighbors at this particular site. The ones that I'm aware of is one being open 24 hours. And that's a good point. I actually did quite a bit of research on this. I went back on 6 weeks of business, and from 11 o'clock at night to 5 o'clock in the morning, we average 215 guests for those hours. Our slowest hour is 1 o'clock in the morning, which is I believe it was 17 guests. And the thing I look at that is, we built up a need of service for a certain amount of people. If it's our mill workers getting done at work, somewhere to come and shop, or those people going into work earlier. So I believe we have provided a service for those people on those hours.
Well, and that's fine, that is a service, but there's also bar time and folks coming out as well. I think part of the issue that I have with all this is the fact that, I was there for the meetings in the beginning when this came forward, and it became, the hours were supposed to be till 10 o'clock.
Sure.
And then it changed after you got the permit, and then it changed to tobacco outlet or what have you. And it just, to me, it just didn't seem forthright to me. So the fact you did that, and then also now you're a Quick Trip Express, so you're back to that. I think the issue that the neighbors are having are these trucks that come in and park illegally or leave their trucks running while they're delivering alcohol, beer, etc., in the early hours of the morning. So I think that's the issue of the 24-hour type business that we're looking at. And I understand you have a great business model, you do well. I shop, like I said, at Quick Trip. But I do have a concern for the neighbors that I've talked to in that area. You're always going to have that when you have residential butting up to a commercial area. We have issues like that throughout the city. This just happens to be one of those that I just have a hard time with. And it's nothing personal, but I'm just looking at what the neighbors are dealing with and the calls and the things that I've talked to them about. And I don't know if there's any kind of solution for that, the fact that you're a 24-hour establishment, and originally when this was all passed, it wasn't. So I do have a hard time with that, and you have a great business model, but like I said, it's the hours and some of the noise and such that the citizens have to put up with.
Okay.
So-
Can I address some of your
Yes.
concerns there? You're right. We actually opened up the store as a tobacco outlet. And, I'm sorry, let me rephrase
Yeah.
that. It was a Quick Trip Express, which is another word we renamed our tobacco outlets. And we expanded their product line of the tobacco outlets to have some of the groceries and stuff. It was very similar to a typical Quick Trip, but without the hot food. But the basis for that store was tobacco, the humidor. And with that name change, our humidor sales dropped 70%, which if that's your number one primary product in that store, that was a big concern for us. So we did make a decision and made a name change. Not saying it was the right name change, because we did make a change in our company with that to the Quick Trip, or back to the Quick Trip. Well, we changed it from Quick Trip Express, Tobacco Outlet plus Grocery. And then when it was the grocery store, some of the government officials have expressed some displeasure with that. So here again, our owner, who wants to be a good neighbor, business partner in the community, made the change back to Quick Trip. So in a way, we felt like we are trying to do what we can to please everybody. We didn't mean any mischief by stepping on toes.
I'm not saying you did.
But, so in a way, we're trying to do what's right.
But like I said, initially, it was named one thing and then it was changed after the fact. And I just don't know if that's normal standard operating practice or not, but
By all means.
normally when there's a site plan that is put forth, what's on the paper is it. And
Go ahead, sorry.
And I just have a hard time with that. So, like I said, it's not personal, but I just feel that we weren't as forthright with the neighbors as could have been. And the fact is that you have these refrigerated trucks that will sit there for some time, and I think that's one of the issues they had, idling trucks.
Okay, well, first of all, no beer truck is refrigerated.
Well, whatever trucks they said they're coming in.
We do have a truck, or a Quick Trip truck that comes in.
Okay, a
And
Quick
here
Trip.
again, we were delivering at 2 o'clock in the morning because of the restrictions of the routes. The route is only Walnut Street. We were not able to turn down Maple. So our trucks had to go through the parking lot diagonally to get to our back door. So the easiest way without possibly injuring a customer or hitting a car was doing it 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There was some concerns about that. We have changed that. Now the truck comes before 9 o'clock at night. Here again, accommodating those neighbors. We understand that.
Okay,
All
I'm good for now.
Okay, but I
I'm
just
good
wanted
for
to,
now.
we did cover that last meeting, but Aldo Stoyer missed last meeting.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's
yeah.
fine.
But we did cover that at the last meeting, that they changed their hours, and actually, the people that were complaining are good with that now. Their main complaint now is trucks parking illegally, but that's not the Quick Trip. It's a matter of law enforcement. We need a little bit, it's our enforcement that we're not following up on that. That's the problem. It's not Quick Trip.
And I have talked to all vendors, beer vendors, soda vendors, and what their understanding is, they have to take the most direct route to a retailer from a truck route,
Right.
which the direct route is turning down Maple.
Yeah. But I believe, I don't
It's
know,
just not a truck
we need to
route.
look at the parking situation there, because right now, either we need to change the parking to accommodate that, or figure out a way that it can, they can go that way and follow the rules, because right now, there's a number of trucks that are parked illegally. But again, that's not the Quick Trip trucks, that's not, and it's a matter of the city enforcing its ordinances.
But, and I agree, I kind of think, yes, you're right, it's more of a vendor. But here again, Quick Trip trying to look out for the best of everybody. I have contacted those vendors. They're not parking on the wrong side of the street no more.
No.
They're parking on the right side. So yes, that is going to cause them to come down, excuse me if I get my streets right or wrong, coming down Ashland, Howard to Maple,
Oh.
to be on the right side
Side of the street. Ah, I see, that's what the, okay. Mhm.
I want one more question.
Sure.
I was just wondering, okay, if you did not get this license, what you project what kind of loss this would be to you? I mean, your store is still successful, but it's like anything else, you want more business. Have you thought about that or projected what might happen if you didn't have that?
Well, I can't project a loss because this is so new to my stores here in Green Bay. I just had, I believe it, you passed 3 stores here approximately about a month ago, so we're really new with having this Class A liquor license. So,
That's it, that's all I have.
Any other questions? Anything else you care to add?
no, I think so.
Okay, thank
Just
you very
that
much.
you issue, kind of look at each retailer separately and give us a chance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alder Johnson, pretty good timing. We're just talking about Quick Trip. Motion to close the floor?
Motion to close.
Motion to close the floor by Alder Stoyer. Second second by Alder Vanderleest, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, okay. Alder Johnson, is there anything you care to add to this? No? Okay, I've already mentioned a few things, so, some of the issues you brought up, Alder Story, were covered last week in that,
Like I said, I'll feel comfortable if the alder and the committee chair here has talked at length, at least to feel that they've talked to the neighbors and things are okay. That's my big concern. So I just need to
Yeah,
have those fears allayed a little bit.
Yep, I think Quick Trip has been making changes, and things have gotten better, and as far as I know, they're fine. The constituents that were complaining are fine with going forward. Have you heard anything different from them since, Alder Johnson, from your constituents there?
I mean, I agree that they've been making changes, and I think there are still some concerns by the neighbors, and I think we need to turn to enforcement for some of those things.
Right. And we just covered that, actually. It's, and it might even be where, if not enforcement, we need to look at, it sounds like you can only park on one side of the street, but for vendors to park on that side of the street, they can't come off Walnut. They have to
Come from Howard.
come from Howard, which technically isn't a truck route.
Well, and I think
So that's
that's probably the
something-
biggest thing, is we do have delivery trucks that have been altered, and that's been great, and we're very appreciative of that, of course. I think the biggest concern we have yet is trucks parking in no parking zones,
Right.
delivery trucks, and then proceeding through the residential neighborhoods
Right.
where trucks are not allowed.
Right.
Right.
And so, again, if that's an enforcement thing, if it's maybe working with Quick Trip to identify alternative loading opportunities or possibilities. I know that's something that Dave Hansen had said at the city level that he was concerned about from the beginning, but
Yeah.
was
Well-
a discussion that proceeded, so.
I think the problem is either the trucks are gonna come from Walmart and they're gonna have to park on the right side of the street, but then when they leave, they're gonna have to go through to Hubbard to Ashland. Or if they have to park on the other side of the street, they can't come from Walnut Way to do that. They'll have to come from Ashland, Howard. So either way, I think it's gonna be traffic going through. I don't know how you can not do that.
Well, I think that's
Coming or
the traffic
going.
engineer's job, is to figure that
Yeah,
out.
well, but that's a city issue that we,
Come back
I'll
up.
make a motion
Sure.
to open the floor.
motion open the floor by Alder Stoyer, second by Alder Stevens, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, yep, please.
I actually did talk to Dave Hansen, I believe.
Yep,
And one is, he kind of took the approach that he wants to be hands-off on this. He thinks it's more of a police department thing. His solution, which is this, that when we do have a delivery, that a vendor is staged 2 blocks away, and our parking lot is clear, we can call them up and say, come on in. That's just physically impossible.
right,
First of all, we're not those only guests of that vendor. They have other customers they have to deliver to. So I just don't know where that is. And where is it, a staging space? It's probably off a truck route also. You know, I don't think we can just park on Broadway waiting for a spot to open up to have them pull in.
right, that's,
So I don't think he's even giving some suggestions. I think he's a little bit, I don't want to make this decision.
yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's like I said, one way or the other, either coming or going, trucks are gonna have to go down Howard. I mean, I don't know how we can physically sit given the space, do anything else. So we should maybe look at that and make some accommodations as a city or whatever.
And the thing, I guess I want you to just take into consideration, no matter if this is a Quick Trip Express, or Tobacco Outlet Plus, we've always had alcohol, we've always had beer. So these vendor trucks have always been there from day one. Nothing's really changed with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Motion to close the floor?
So, second.
Motion by
Motion.
Alder Stoyer, seconded by Alder Vanderleest, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, okay, we're closed. Yep,
Thank you, Chair. Lieutenant, I was going to ask you about this. It seems like we're leaning toward enforcement, if you will, on this issue, and I don't know what your take is on police presence or what. Like I said, there is a concern that I have, and I know the traffic engineer seems to be holding off on this, you know, as far as patterns and such right now. If we approve this license, it's like, if we approve it, period. But I'm looking to you for answers on police enforcement or what your thoughts are on that.
On the enforcement part, I don't want to say it'll be difficult. Our staffing numbers are at an all-time low. So in terms of someone calls in and says, I have a parking issue, to be honest, it could take us 3, 4, 5 hours to get there, which by then the vendor would be gone. I don't, not to keep passing the buck, I honestly don't know if the parking utility has the authority to write that citation. I know they could write certain parking violations, but not others.
CSIs?
They normally do not write parking citations, and currently we have 2 CSIs instead of a normal 10.
Wow.
We're trying to get more of them as well.
Okay.
I guess, I don't know if there'd be, because knowing the downtown district, if there could be parking for, you know, trucks only during certain hours. That way they know, okay, I could park here during this hour, and I guess not to sound rude to a vendor, but if another vendor is already in that spot, you go service your other customers and you come back until that spot is open. That's something, I guess me personally, I would think could accommodate the neighbors, that if there's a certain area that's parking for deliveries between this hour and that hour, though, how we have the taxi stands downtown, that might help alleviate where the vendors know where they could park, when they're allowed to park there. And if they're outside of that, then it does make it a lot easier for us to enforce it. Then if someone's in violation, they could take a picture. The truck was parked outside of that area at 4 in the afternoon or whatever the hours, then yes, we could go back and do some enforcement at that point.
Okay. Actually, that's it for Lieutenant. I have one question for Mr. Haynes yet. I hate to open the floor, but, hey.
Go ahead.
Goes.
It's your.
Motion open the floor.
Motion on the floor by Alder Steuer.
Second.
Second by Alder Stevens. All in favor? Aye.
Oh, you
Opposed?
did that.
Yep. Go ahead.
That's- Anyway,
One more
Mr.
question,
Haynes,
please.
Your vendors that come in to deliver in that, how often do they come in? Does it vary by day, the weekend, or what? Is there some kind of a pattern here?
There is a pattern, and I don't know exact pattern, but I'm just gonna say if Pepsi comes on, Pepsi is our biggest vendor. They come in twice a week. Most vendors, it's once a week. We don't allow deliveries on Saturdays or Sundays. We do have delivery hours, which is, I believe, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m.
You're saying a majority of them, but there are still others that come after?
No.
No.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Mhm.
I'm just checking.
Also, you know, just kind of going on a little bit with what you were talking about, by all means, I'd be very open to that concept you were just talking about. We also, within our delivery policy, we don't allow 2 beer vendors in our store at the same time. So, yes, they could be staged outside, but that's something we can talk with those vendors about. So usually when they see one vendor there, they try to go on to another delivery because it does no good for them just to be sitting outside.
Well, you realize, okay, I feel comfortable with some of the answers you've given, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You wouldn't want 2 beer vendors in at the same time. There'd be a rumble.
Well, it could
Good
get
for
to
you.
other things,
Yeah.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
So same thing with soda vendors or anything like that.
Yeah. They can't just pop in and pop out.
Right.
Motion to close the floor.
Pop in and pop out. Motion to close the floor by Alder Steuer. Second by Alder Vanderleest. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the store is now closed. Does anybody want to make a motion or want more discussion?
I've talked a bit. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
No, I think, I know the history on this has been long. I'm not going to go through the whole history of why we held this up again and again and again. I think we're at the point now where all the businesses that we had denied in this area, I think we can grant them their license now. We can all move forward and level the playing field. Just about every other convenience store in town sells liquor, so it just seems right to be able to level the playing field. It's a matter of good management for these businesses as far as causing problems, and I think this certainly isn't going to be the case
I'll make a
here.
motion then.
Sure.
I'll make a motion, considering what was said today by Mr. Haynes and also by the alders, and and yourself, Randy, you are an alternate.
I am.
I feel comfortable, so I will make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second by, motion by Alder Sawyer, second by Alder Stevens. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. It'll go on
And I'll just,
to council next Tuesday. I don't think anybody's gonna pull it next Tuesday. I think we're finally over the hill.
Okay, thank you.
That's, I suppose I should have said that at the very beginning. I gotta make a note somewhere.
what's that?
That everything we do here at committee is just a recommendation to the council. Council has the final authority next Tuesday.
Okay, we're good.
Item number 3, discussion with possible action on General Ordinance 24-18, amending section 8.15, subsection 2, Green Bay Municipal Code relating to smoking regulations. Staff?
Yes, this is a pretty simple change. The amendment just changes the ordinance to prohibit smoking to 25 feet in front of all city buildings instead of just City Hall.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Alder Steuer. Second by Alder Stevens. Any further discussion? Aren't you worried this is going to go up in smoke? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
I just ate too.
I know, you're going to lose it.
Okay, we're good.
Item number 4, last but not least, discussion with possible action on a general ordinance amending section 27.902, subsection 2, Green Bay Municipal Code relating to penalties for marijuana possession, previously discussed at the September 10th P&P meeting, protection policy meeting. Staff,
Yes.
how many of those memos do you have? I somehow lost my memo somewhere.
Yours?
That's all you want?
Yeah, well, no, I lost more
Pull
than
up, I
that.
have one on my email that
You
I
can
can
share.
pull up.
But I can
Well, wait a
share,
minute.
I can
Are
share.
you sure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
that's fine. So staff?
Yes, so the committee previously referred this back to staff to report back
I
on
can
the
understand.
research that staff had gathered as to what other communities are doing with respect to fines and other research supporting the proposed ordinance changes. You have in front of you a memorandum prepared by ACA Kristen Johnson with respect to the research that she did. So just as a bit of a background, Alder Scannell had requested that the law department review the ordinance with the goal of making the penalty less severe. Currently, our ordinance provides that any person possessing 25 grams of marijuana or less is subject to a fine of not less than $1, not more than $1,000. And our ordinance also prohibits anyone who's had a previous conviction for possession from being issued a citation under the ordinance. Rather, instead, someone with a prior conviction for possession has to be referred to the DA's office for criminal charges, no matter how much marijuana they possess. So this leaves the police department with no discretion when it comes to enforcement, and also creates a burden on the criminal justice system. So the proposed amendment, after discussions with the police department, the municipal court judge, and the city prosecutor, it was determined that the best course would be to lower the maximum fine of marijuana from $1,000 to $500. So that range would be from $1 to $500. Additionally, the amendment allows the PD to issue citations to individuals with prior possession convictions, rather than mandating that they have to refer the charges to the DA. The goal of this amendment is that more citations will be issued to municipal court, reducing the burden on the DA's office and circuit court. Surrounding communities. It looks like we found that the penalties for civil citation for possession vary a lot amongst Wisconsin municipalities. Several municipalities adopt statute 66.0107, which authorizes a municipality to enact its own ordinance prohibiting possession. Under that statute, if the criminal complaint is issued by the DA's office alleging possession of more than 25 grams or possession following a prior conviction, the person may not be issued a municipal citation unless the criminal charges are first dismissed by the DA's office. Many municipalities use the same or similar guidelines within their municipal code, however, only regulating possession under 25 grams and first-time offenders. However, many municipalities have enacted less restrictive ordinances decriminalizing possession, even if the accused possesses more than 25 grams or has had prior conviction for possession. Some municipalities have potential fines upwards of $1,000, while other municipalities do not impose any kind of penalty for possession of marijuana. So then a summary is below of other local areas. Oshkosh in 2018 voted the minimum fine to be lowered from $325 to $200 for the first offense. And then this reduction was a result of a proposal to lower the fine to $25, which was rejected by the council. Stevens Point, currently the fine is $100. In 2018, in February of this year, the city council rejected a proposal to lower the fine to $5. Madison, a person may possess up to 28 grams in a private place and is not subject to any fine. A person cannot possess marijuana in a public place unless it was obtained pursuant to a valid prescription. Currently, only CBD can be legally prescribed. If a person caught possessing marijuana is in a public place, they face a fine of up to $100. Milwaukee, the fine is from 0 to 50. They may be permitted to perform community service, attend substance abuse education in lieu of paying the fine. If they're convicted of smoking marijuana in public, that fine is $250 to $500. And Eau Claire, first offense, conviction for possession of less than 25 grams is between $100 and $500. Kenosha, first offense, fine for up to 28 grams, so that's 1 ounce, is between $10 and $750. Sheboygan, first offense possession of up to 25 grams is between $250 and $1,000. And Monona, individuals 21 or older are permitted to use marijuana at their personal residence or as a lawful guest of another residence. Individuals 21 or older are permitted to possess marijuana at any location. So it kind of varies across the board. But what we are proposing is not way out of the box.
Question? Yes?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Attorney
Yep,
Munger, I was
yep.
I noticed some of the fines here, $10 to $750, $250 up to $1,000. There seems to be such a wide range, and I'm just wondering what the thought process is on that. Does it depend on the person?
It depends on the circumstances, the amount. That would be kind of up to the discretion of the police officer as to what to set the fine at. And also allows a little bit of negotiating position for a prosecutor as far as trying to get someone to plead and potentially lowering down the fine.
It doesn't specifically say in our ordinance, but does not Judge Hanson have the discretion to use community service instead of a fine? I thought he did.
That I'm not sure. I don't think that community court does offer community service. At least I'm not aware of them
I would like to
using that in
then
the past.
amend to add that as a possibility for the
Okay.
judge to have that option.
I like that too. That's a possibility.
But that's, before we start amending things, let's discuss, and then we can start making amendments accordingly. Should we go point by point, or does anybody care to just, any general discussion?
I have a little general discussion.
Sure. Alder Vanderleest.
How's our surrounding community like Bellevue and Howard and Hobart? Are they pretty much tied in with what the county's proposing at this time? In other words, the county ordinance, how it works throughout the county, is that correct?
That I'm not sure. It doesn't look like she looked at Bellevue or Howard. These were the other municipalities that were decriminalizing marijuana. So it may be the case that other counties haven't put forth ordinances like this and just basically
I haven't had a chance to
fall in
talk
line
to.
with state statute.
I haven't had a chance to talk to the district attorney as far as what his thoughts would be. I think it'd be good for us to, to talk to the district attorney and get his opinion on most of the cases. Like if we look at our current ordinance, it says here, it says not less than $1 and not more than 1,000. So in other words, I believe the community is, we're not just slapping $1,000 fine on everybody that's caught with any marijuana at this point. I don't believe that.
Right. I'm not sure what circumstances would lead to a $1,000 fine, but
Normally, we have a set amount that all the officers will write for the possession of marijuana. If the person's not being cooperative, we give the officer the right, it's called maxing out the bond, which then they would shoot it up to $1,000. Could be the person was fighting, they were lying, when we asked them about it, they tried eating it. Various things where they were not being cooperative. If they are cooperative, and I don't know the fine right now, I haven't written that ticket in a while, we normally have a set amount that we'll write down and then leave it for the court to decide if they'd like to reduce it. But I know we don't max out the ticket right off the bat.
Is there a lot of, and let me ask you, are there a lot of citations written on a weekly basis? Like how many a week would be written?
For possession of marijuana, I'd say 10 to 20, if that. I do know a lot of the officers do use their discretion where they just dispose, depending on the amount, they'll just dispose of the marijuana based on the person's demeanor instead of writing them a ticket and going through that route. So once again, it depends on the person and also depends on the shift. I know night shift does write more, and it's mainly through traffic stops that they pull the car over, and it's very noticeable in the car, so they'll write those. But I would say probably about 20 a week on the high side. I could look that up for you for the next meeting and let
It
you
would be
know.
nice to know the actual statistics of how many citations are being written and what the amounts of fines are being given. And I think we also should do a little homework as far as talking to the district attorney to see where he's coming from, to see how this is going to affect our whole Brown County. That would be my
So
suggestion.
this wouldn't affect Brown County as a whole. This would be only an ordinance that applies in city of Green Bay. And just based on the wording of the ordinance, the effect would essentially be reducing the number of cases that are being referred to the DA. And as we all know, the DA's office is extremely backlogged and they have more cases than they can handle. So it would actually be taking a burden off of them, because the way that it currently is structured is that if a person is a repeat offender and they have a second possession charge in front of them, it can't go to Muni court. It has to go to the DA, and they could be literally prosecuting something that would be, 5 grams or less than 25 grams, a very minimal amount, and they would be expending all those resources to prosecute something like that, versus instead of it being handled at Muni court.
That's all I have to say.
Kim?
I just got logged out.
You got logged out?
Mhm.
Oh, no, you grounded.
Could I ask a question?
2 weeks, certainly.
The law department. So in those, or excuse me, not law, police, sorry. In those instances where we may choose to max out because someone's, again, lying, trying to destroy evidence, are there other charges at our disposal that we can use instead of cranking up the fine on possession of marijuana, like obstruction or?
Actually, if we had the obstruction charge, it would make their overall fine more expensive. I believe the obstruction charge is 400, or a resisting arrest is say 600. So if we charge them with the obstruction plus the possession of marijuana at a normal amount, that dollar amount would be more than if we just maxed out the possession of marijuana dollar amount.
So what I'm trying to understand right now, though, is right now, if somebody is resisting arrest, what we're essentially doing is we're just going to increase your fine on the marijuana charge, when in reality, it's something else that's really going on here.
That's the officer's discretion. To be honest, if they resisted, they would probably get both charges. Where they would max it out is a common scenario in the car, we pull the car over, everyone, whose marijuana is it? Everyone, not mine, not mine, not mine. Finally, someone owns up to it after us expending a lot of time and resources. Then we might decide, you know what, we just spent a whole hour on this one, it could have lasted 15 minutes and we could have moved on to something else. Then the officer would get permission and could max out the fine. But that's officer discretion.
See, and that's where I'm looking at it, saying, why aren't we enforcing what's actually happening here, which is obstruction, instead of cranking up the fine on possession?
I think a small nuance would be that being uncooperative wouldn't necessarily always rise to the statutory level of resisting arrest or obstructing. is that you have to have certain elements in place in order to charge that. Being uncooperative and not being very friendly or forthcoming isn't necessarily the same thing as resisting. So I think that's what Commissioner Mahoney is trying to
Okay.
say.
But in that case, they're
That in these
probably
cases,
being.
that these are people who aren't necessarily resisting or obstructing to get slapped with a citation for that, but they're not being very cooperative, or they're wasting the police officer's time, and so then the fine gets increased. Or there's other circumstances that are
Okay.
kind of lending themselves to increase the fine.
Okay, understood.
When I had discussions with some, our city attorney and staff, that was part of the reason for, because I was shooting for a lower fine, and that was part of the reason why they wanted to not go below 500. They wanted to still have some teeth in it so that officers could use some discretion, and also our city attorney had some leverage for plea bargaining. Instead of, if you reduce the fine too much, then the worry was that someone might fight it in court just to clear their record. Well, we want to avoid going to court. Court is expensive, time-consuming. That's not something we really want to spend a lot of time on. Matter of fact, one of the reasons behind all this is to kind of clear the board and make things not so clogged up in the courts. So I think that's one reason why our fine is 500 and not like 100 or 50, you know. So 500 is still fairly significant.
So it seems to me, at least, the debate is still, and of course, this is what you guys all engage in,
Mhm.
is this the kind of thing we want clogging up our courts? And we want consuming our police time. So, debate away.
And to answer,
Yep.
and I've been a police officer here in Green Bay now 12 years. I've only maxed out one ticket my full 12 years as an officer. It's extremely rare that we actually max out a ticket. I'd say 99.5% of the time, we're not even coming close to that. It's a very rare circumstance when we actually put the maximum fine.
And I appreciate that feedback, and I think that's Alder Vanderleest's point, is it would be great to see that data in those reports. But again, even if it's a $1 fine, it's gonna cost us more money to process than the dollar we're getting from it, so,
You
and
gotta have something.
to me, this is not necessarily about the money or the fine or anything, it's really a philosophical discussion about, is this the kind of thing that should be consuming resources in our community?
Well,
Right.
I agree that the courts are jammed up a lot with this, and I think something like this with the reduction to 500, I think would really work. I think we should really move forward with it.
Yeah, and I see where Alder Johnson's going, and that's where initially my main focus was on this, was to take this down as low as we could go, as far as, because we can't legalize, that's beyond our power, but how far can we decriminalize? And I wanted to get the main players on board with this, had talks with Judge Hanson and Chief Smith and the mayor's office and legal. And this seemed to be pretty much what everybody was comfortable with.
How does Monona have that policy? They're able, I mean.
They're just basically not enforcing state law.
Right. And the state
And
has,
it's harder also if you're, as far as the personal residence, I mean, unless there's a sting operation or a police officer happens to be knocking on the door and smells marijuana, it's hard to police inside someone's home. As far as any location, they're just not following state ordinance, and how they're doing that, I'm not entirely clear.
Is there a penalty for a community when they don't follow state law?
Not that I'm aware of.
I would assume that the state could take
Right,
some kind of
so-
action on us if they
And
wanted.
this only applies to Monona police officers, so if you get stopped by a state trooper, you're gonna get a ticket. If you get stopped by some other law enforcement, you're gonna get a ticket. So this would only apply to Monona police,
Okay.
and within Monona city limits. So the moment they're in Madison, this doesn't apply.
So, like I said, I was kind of shooting that way, but in talking with law enforcement, they weren't quite comfortable going that far, and same with others, so I just want to move the ball in the right direction. I think our fines, and not just the fine, we're kind of focusing on that, but there are other portions too, like with the driver's license, to me, that makes no sense at all. Why are we suspending a driver's license? The person caught with under 25 grams maybe not in a vehicle at all. Why should that be a consequence? It just makes no sense at all. That just seems punitive and unnecessary.
I got a
Yep,
question for you.
certainly, yep.
Is this so time sensitive that we have to decide today? The only reason is, Alder Vanderleest brought up some good points as far as what the county is looking at. And
We can,
so,
we
I
can
mean,
do,
was there anything that way that you wanted to hold
I
because of
say if
that?
we hold
or-
until our next committee meeting, we can have a little more time to do a little more research and get the feedback from the district attorney.
I mean, I think it's going in the right
well,
direction, Randy. I
well,
do believe
right. But, and I don't mind holding this up, but I want to hold it up for something real. I mean, like, I don't think the district attorney's going to, I mean, we're clearing their
Alder
plate,
Vanderleest
that's
brought
not,
it forward.
right, I understand, but the district attorney, we're clearing his docket. I don't think that, from what I understand, talking with Judge Hanson, that's going to be an issue. That's a plus for the courts, that's what they want. They're happy with that. So, and as far as talking with what the county's doing, well, this doesn't affect the county.
No.
So, I mean, if we will hold it up, I got no problem holding it up, but I want us to be researching and holding it up for something that's gonna be meaningful. I don't see how, those 2 points right now make a difference.
I'm just answering what.
Right, and I appreciate
My
that.
thoughts are that I'd like to get the information back from the chief, Chief Smith, on what kind of fines have been enacted in, let's say, in the last 6 months. If we could get the data from the last 6 months to see what kind of fines were actually, imposed on the people that were prosecuted.
I know where you're coming from, Randy, but I think it's just due diligence, just to, get that information. We
Okay.
could pass it ahead of time, and then, oh, by the way, we have this information after the fact.
Okay.
Or we can have the
All right,
information and be seamless.
I got a question.
For transparency.
I've got a
Let's do it.
question for you that want to hold this up for that purpose. What are you gonna do with that information? What does that information do?
I think it'd give the
What do
rest
you
of the
mean? What
council.
is-
Well, what does it do? You want information for a reason. It's gonna make a difference in how you think about this issue. No matter
You
what
wanna
the
open
sign.
floor? Shoot, we could open the floor, I'd like to do that.
Well,
Some people are.
Yeah, we'll be
talking
opening,
out
we
there.
will be opening the floor.
All right.
I'm in the middle here, okay? Hang on.
Excuse me.
Yeah. The amount of the fines in the past, I just don't see how it's relevant. What difference does it make? How does that affect anything we're doing? How does that affect changing where we will no longer suspend licenses? How does that change, as far as the fine, more in the fine now, what matters is not what we've done in the past, but what's comfortable going forward. Does it make sense going forward to reduce it in half?
I have no
And
big
that's-
problem with this issue. I'm just saying that the information that would be brought forward would just lend more to the argument. That is all.
Well, and that's
That
what
is
I'm
it.
trying to ascertain.
That's all.
How does it add to the argument? That's what I'm trying to ascertain.
Well, I have a question, sure.
Yep.
Madison's ordinance is very intriguing. The police department could tell us where these fines are being issued. Is it private or is it more public?
Public. Okay, so, let's start making a list of what we want.
Like, are they issuing more private or more public related? Like someone at home
Right,
or someone on the street?
Or someone on the
Madison's
street.
very intriguing.
yep. Do you have any,
Whether citations or more citations are issued in residences or in public, like car stops, vehicle stops, things like that.
Right now, I couldn't tell you. I would-
okay, that's fine, that's something we'd want to
I'd
get.
have to look into it.
Yeah, that's fine, okay?
Also,
Yep.
one other question. In other words, is it mandatory that they lose their driver's license after one offense? Is that the case or not?
That's up to the courts.
Courts.
I honestly don't know if the courts enforce that or if that's something when the person.
Is that a state statute that they have enacted there, as far as the state goes?
In terms of the fines, I don't know.
I'm talking about driver's license, in other words.
Yeah, and that's part of the fine when you get caught. Honestly, once it gets that point, I honestly don't know what the fine or the punishment for the possession is, if that's a state statute.
If we could find out that information, I think it'd be very helpful. I think the public would be more informed of what's, how it's really being written and how it's being enforced.
Okay.
You understand those two?
I'm not sure to find out how many citations were issued in residences versus public places, and to find out and to bring back.
Could you restate that
Right,
again, Alder
I didn't catch
Vanderleest,
that.
what exactly you're looking for? She couldn't quite.
Okay. Well, I want to know about the driver's license. If people are losing their driver's license for one offense or multiple offenses, or how that plays into the equation?
That could be for one, that could be for, the way that our ordinance is written right now, the penalty could be for one offense, because if it's a second offense, Muni Court isn't prosecuting, isn't hearing it, it's going to circuit court. So our ordinance provides that they can get a penalty of up to $1,000 and/or lose their have their driver's license suspended, and that's only for one offense. Because anything over one offense, we don't have jurisdiction over, it gets referred to the
In other words, is that written into our ordinance right now?
Yes.
in our ordinance right now currently. And
That's
this
not gonna change.
amendment-
That's not going to change, correct?
No,
No,
that
that's what we're
amendment would be
changing. We're
taken
taking
out,
that, you
right.
cannot lose your license. That would not be a consequence that a judge could,
So it would just be a fine,
it would just be a fine.
up to $500.
I'd like to know how many people have lost their driver's license in the last 6 months on this type of charges.
Anything else? That's good. Anything else?
Then I can make a motion, open the floor.
Motion to open the floor by Alder Steuer. Second by Alder Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Floor is now opened. Make sure you fill out the forms.
I'm grouchy, I don't feel good tonight.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I'm here, I'm fighting for my medicine, people.
I'm sorry, before we move on, who made that motion in second? It was
I did.
Alder Steuer made the motion, seconded by Alder Stevens.
Thank you very much.
I don't have much to say tonight. I'm a little concerned with some of the things that I've been hearing. I was concerned about you talking about drug tests from private companies last week. That's not the government's business. I'm a little concerned with you stalling. Can we please just move this forward to council? I got a thing written up, but I kind of just want to be mad and talk from the heart. I've been entertaining you guys for 2 years. Come on. I'm about ready to move to the UP, and I don't want to. I don't want to leave. I just got back here. I just want to be able to use my medicine without fear. It shouldn't be that freaking hard. So I can't even, sorry.
That's all right.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I just,
Tell me, please,
Sure.
state your name and address
you bet.
and fill out the form.
I'm Chris Mickle. I live at 150 Winchester Way. I just wanted to talk a little bit more. You'd mentioned about the private use. What do other communities do about private use?
Madison, you can possess up to 28 grams in a private place, and you are not subject to a fine.
I like that.
And then Monona, you're permitted to use marijuana at your personal residence.
That was
it.
Yeah, that was my thing the last time I came here, was just private residence should be kind of off limits as far as any fine at all. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you.
I can take it.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, sure, thank you.
Hey, Don Radford, 408 South Van Buren Street, apartment 1. Okay, yeah, with regard to, still leaving that maximum of 500, and it sounds like the officer in the field has a lot of power as to which way that punishment goes. For your average medicinal user who's pretty much flat broken on benefits and everything, that is still just a horrible imposition. The only way you can exercise compassion toward the medicinal users is really going to have to be to let everybody kind of slide. That I just don't see any other way for that to happen. So, it's that consideration. As far as pushing this matter off, again, kicking the can a little further down the road, I don't see much use. The fact of the matter is, this thing can be amended later. And you can certainly discuss it between now and the general meeting. So, thank you.
Make sure you fill out the form too. And that name and address?
Tony Spencer, 144 Stewart Street. Of all the things that were said tonight, Alder Scannell, you had mentioned not jamming up the courts. And there's a lot of talk about municipal court, circuit court. If we don't want to jam up the courts, it's very simple. Don't. A $500 fine is still high enough where people will take it to court to beat it, or if not wasting the court's time, will drag out the city attorney's office time in plea bargaining and whatever subsequent meetings will happen after the first initial periods. If you don't want to jam up the courts, $500 is too much. If you want to clear up these resources, either make it no fine or make it a fine that people can afford so that they will not spend any extra time or energy fighting it. And remove the clause of making a second offense a mandatory criminal charge. That will jam up the district court, the circuit court. And even if the fine is reasonable, it will not continue to jam up the municipal court. It's that simple. If you don't want people to waste the government resources on fighting this or anything, don't make us. I don't really see what the problem is. That's all.
Anyone else?
I'm not a city resident, but I would like to say thank
Well,
you.
you can speak on this, please. Fill out the sheet and state your name and address.
So my name is Rhonda Forbes. I live at 2262 Hilltop Drive in Schwalm. First, I want to thank all of you for coming here today and engaging in this conversation. I think that we could do our entire community a huge service by not clogging up our circuit courts. They are hugely overworked. Our public defenders are grossly underpaid, and they cannot handle the backlog that they have. It's leading to overcrowding our jails. The taxpayers having to be on the hook for a huge jail expansion. So if we can backtrack from all of that and do something good, we can help out the people in our community who need this medicine, whose science is saying that these are legitimate reasons to use this plant in order to treat their symptoms because nothing else works, or the side effects from the pharmaceuticals are too heinous for you to even imagine. Let's help them. And let's just look out for each other in the respect that, the city doesn't need this revenue. The city doesn't need this revenue. And we don't need to have, I have a criminal cannabis conviction from 25 years ago. If it wasn't for you, Alder Scannell, and bringing this to the table and taking that out of there, if all these years later with a professional career and everything, I was at a concert with a couple of friends smoking a joint, I'd be getting that felony conviction, a repeater, a habitual offender, and I would lose everything over something as simple as enjoying my time off work, my private time. And that wouldn't be fair either, would it? I worked really hard to get where I am. So I appreciate all of you engaging in this conversation, and I appreciate what you're hopefully going to be able to do for this community by moving this ordinance forward, removing all of that fluff. Let's just bring it down to a small, reasonable fine. Nobody's going to fight it then. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor by Alder Steuer.
Second.
Second by Alder Vanderleest. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're gonna close it. Anything else?
Well, Wendy brought up some points about medicinal, et cetera, and I'm looking at this strictly from this item, not so much, what you were alluding
You can
to.
protect people like me today,
Right.
tonight. You can protect people like me right now. Right now.
Okay.
Move this forward.
Well, I would, could you come back up here and state that without getting overly emotional?
Well,
I don't know,
Only in
I'm
this-
like 2 weeks from a divorce.
Just hold on
man.
a
It's-
second.
it's-
I'm asking.
I'm 2 weeks from a divorce, I'm sick,
But-
my kid just moved in, I don't know.
we need to open the floor again if you want to have this kind of
Motion to open the
discussion.
floor.
Okay,
All right.
hand stop. I'll
Motion to open
try.
the floor by Alder Steuer. Second by
I'll
Alder
try.
Stevens. All in favor?
Okay.
Aye, yeah, if you
All
want
right.
to.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Fine, Randy.
that's all I'm getting at.
Just, if you could just speak to that effect, that, we're trying to do right.
I had,
I'm sorry.
life sucks. I'll just read what I had before. What I had written. The first thing was actually that I wanted to address something that was said about the last meeting with the drug testing for employment. If there's any tech-savvy people here that are looking for a job that does not drug test, where they can work from the comfort of their home, Support.com is hiring customer support technicians. Just want to throw that out there. We are employable. $0 fines with no paper trail are the only way to protect medical cannabis users in our community. The worst thing that should happen to anyone for possession of cannabis is losing the cannabis. That's expensive enough. I'll spare you a long speech until this reaches the full council, except I will have a big dramatic thing before that, so thank you for your time and the other chance.
All right.
Now, any questions? Any questions?
Not for her.
Okay.
I'm good. Somebody
Sir,
else?
sure, the floor's open. If there's something else you want to ask.
I just want to also mention, I am a transgender woman. I would like to think that would not matter in terms of how I would be handled or anything would happen should I have interaction with the police department. Sadly, the experience of my community says otherwise. So, I'd like to at least take the teeth out of the high end on this.
I'd just like to ask this, for those who are looking for more information to delay this further, what are you afraid of if going to council? Are you afraid that your opinion won't be the majority? Is that why you're trying to delay it? Is it really? Don't give me whatever you're going to try to justify with. I'm not asking for an answer. I'm asking you to ask yourself, what are you afraid of? That's all.
A motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor by Alder Steuer. Second by Alder Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Barb had a question.
Yep, or a comment, yep. You can do that without the...
Yeah, I know.
The floor's closed.
Well, Randy, I think you and I were more on the same page a long time ago, and so I am still trying to wrap my brain around why the fine has to be so high. I don't understand that. I know we can't do anything about decriminalize, well, we can decriminalize, we can't make it illegal.
Right.
We can't somehow allow people with medical,
We can't
we
differentiate.
can't differentiate.
No, I looked into that.
And I was explained to me that because you can't legally get a prescription in Wisconsin.
Right.
Is that true? So
Yeah.
in Wisconsin, you can't do it, right?
Right.
When I think about a glass of wine and a I mean, I'm having a difficult time with this, especially since states started making it legal. It's legal now in parts of the United States, and
Yeah.
it's not legal here. And it's causing a lot of backup and backlog, and why should people be going to jail just for that? But if there's something else they did wrong, well, then that's what they should get charged with. There's something else they did wrong. I still have to be convinced of more than a $25 fine, I guess. I don't understand why it's $500. I mean, I understand what you said, so it gives the police a little bit to,
And our district attorney. So actually, what was mentioned was that...
but it shouldn't even go, why is it going to the district attorney? I thought we took that away.
No, I'm not the DM, sorry.
Oh.
I meant to say city attorney. I meant to say our city attorney. I'm
The
sorry.
city
I didn't mean D-name. Yeah, Rich.
But just based on the possession of some marijuana,
Mhm.
there must have been other things added to it that where the city attorney would want to have wiggle room.
Yeah, well...
I really don't understand that part.
Right.
If there's something else to be charged with or to get a punishment for, then that's what they should get it for, not for the marijuana.
Right. The problem is we can't legalize. So.
I get that.
And so there will be enforcement, and there will be things brought before the city attorney. If it's a $500 fine, he can then lower it if someone says, I can't pay that, and this keeps it out of the courts. Because if you make it too low, then someone who feels they don't want this on their record will fight it. If you make it a fine where it's not worth their time to fight it, but to negotiate, to plea deal it out and keep it out of the court system, so it
Could
would
work in their favor. Could work
Yeah,
in
it would-
Favor.
that's the whole purpose of it, to give it wiggle room so that our city attorney can make it work in their favor to keep things out of court. That's what he wants to do
So
as
we're
well.
taking away the driver's license part, right?
Yep.
That's, and they're taking away the after the first offense, it doesn't have to go beyond that.
Right, it's not on the record.
I guess if someone's driving under the influence, and it could be under the influence of marijuana,
That there are
that's a
laws.
different, is that a different
That would be
Yep.
a
thing?
WI.
That's
That's a
what-
different thing,
Yes.
right? That's not just, we're just really strictly
Just
talking
possession.
Mhm.
possession.
Mhm. And I think the problem with like having it in your personal home, again, that's legalizing, and I think there's many of our staff and police enforcement and everything who are uncomfortable going that far, is because it, as much as as I dislike it, and I think many others, that it's illegal, it is. And we took an oath to uphold the law, not just laws we don't like, or laws we like. So we have to follow the law, and we have to still say, yeah, this is illegal, and there's still some consequences, and we still have to play that game until we can change the state law. So I don't think it's appropriate to use our powers to completely corrupt the law. That's
I
not
get
what
you're
we're
saying.
here
I
to do,
understand.
corrupt, you know?
Yeah, I understand. And if so, a person might feel forced to vote yes in council even if they don't agree with all parts of this, because if you vote no, we're back to the old law, right?
Right.
Okay, just want to understand that. Thank you very much.
Yep. Yep.
I think one point that you brought up, you're saying, $500 is still a lot for a lot of people. So with that being said, you could say 500, 1,000, 250. I think no matter what number you put on it, it's going to be a hardship somewhere down the line for somebody. That's why you have fines. In my belief, I have no problems personally, let's say talking about medical marijuana. Like I said, though, we're looking at all cases here.
Yeah,
And
we
that's the difficulty with this. So I'm still kind of torn
Yeah.
on it, but I realize we have to uphold certain things.
Yeah, well, the purpose of the 500 fine is to make it a bit of a hurt on someone, so they plea bargain. So the purpose is to make it still have a little teeth to it, so that people are willing to plea bargain. And but we're going to make it more reasonable. Instead of 1,500 is the max. And in practice, from talking to Judge Hanson and our city attorney, it's rarely. I mean, usually it's plea bargain way down, and it's taken case by case, and they try to do their best. I think it's the same with law enforcement. I think no matter what we do, it's going to come down to the people who make this work. Our law enforcement, our city attorney, our judges. They're the ones who are going to be using our guidelines, and they can make it hard, they can make it easy, and I believe we got good people in place. They're going to do the right thing, I think 99.9% of the time. I think for myself, I want to get the ball rolling in the right direction, but I still have to respect the law that I disagree with. I think it's a dumb law, I think it's a wrong law, but I took an oath to uphold the law, so I don't want to defang it to the point where it's no longer a law. I think I'm not comfortable doing that. I think that's wrong. In a moral sense, it's right, but in a legal sense, it's wrong, and I think I have to go that way. As far as medical marijuana, like I was stated, we cannot make any differentiation. We cannot separate out, we cannot say legal marijuana is okay or a lesser fine or whatever. We cannot differentiate between, because the state does not differentiate. The state says all marijuana is illegal. So our hands are tied there, unfortunately. Otherwise, I think the case to be, to completely decriminalize that would be great. But I think that that takes the law that, I just don't feel that's within my power, that's something I should be doing. I took an oath to uphold the law, and I need to uphold the law as best I can. I think this law, there's plenty of room where we can tweak, where we can make it better. We still have to have things in place to address this law. So, that's where I'm at.
I just want to ask our attorney, I know you probably stated it already, but as far as the city's stand on this, could you just reiterate that? I know you've already repeated it, but I'd like to hear it again.
Essentially, I don't think the law department has to stand one way or another. I think what we are proposing is reasonable with respect to what other communities are doing. And it would have the added benefit of reducing cases that are being referred to the DA's office that may not necessarily, or that shouldn't necessarily be going to the DA's office simply because of an ordinance provision preventing us from being able to prosecute second and third offenses and so forth. And also to make a point with that max of 500, to kind of bring back what Lieutenant Mahoney had said, that in all of his years of service, he's only maxed out a ticket one time. So I don't think that $500 is where majority of the tickets are gonna land. But to just kind of keep that in mind, that that's the absolute top. And
So even when we do max out, we still have reduced our
right.
considerably. in
So
half.
it's
So-
not something that officers do frequently, 99.9% of the time. It'll be set somewhere lower.
So if we don't frequently issue them at the max, how frequently do we issue them at the minimum?
That's what Officer Vanderleest asked, but then that would be waiting another
2 weeks.
2 weeks to find out. He asked to get the data.
Unless they have to reinvent the statistical model to actually differentiate that.
You gotta wait.
Yeah,
I just got one quick question.
certainly.
If you look at what we're talking about here, you look at the federal law, you look at the state law, there hasn't been much done on this. It's in its very infancy. Like in Colorado where they've legalized it, for example, the federal government hasn't endorsed it. They have trouble with the banks handling the money that's being taken in. There's so many things that have come, in other words, where they've actually legalized it, the federal government has not endorsed it. That's some of the problem. In other words, you look at where we're at right now, the state of Wisconsin does not, in other words, it's against the law. And same way with the federal government, it's against the law. And that's where we're at right now. And I think that, the federal and the state should be working hand in hand to come to a agreement of what's going to be done. And I think that's, they've been dragging the feet a long time. And, now we have it at our own city government here. And we hear that from what the police officers have said here tonight, that 99.5% of the time, the fines aren't that exorbitant. In other words, so I think that the state legislator and, they should be the ones to, kind of push the federals to get something done. We have our state senators and congressmen, and that's the federal end of it. And in other words, we have our U.S. senators, U.S. congressmen, and then we got our state representatives. And I think that those branches should be working hand in hand to get the results that we're looking for here.
Well, we're not looking to legalize, we can't legalize. So, I mean, the feds and the state, they're the only ones who can legalize. We don't have the authority.
That's
and
correct.
certainly,
That's
but what
what
we're
I'm
doing here now is not legalizing. We are not legalizing. And anything we do here really has nothing to do with the state or the Fed. We are working within our jurisdiction, and within our purview and right as a municipality. So we are not, there's nothing that the state or the Fed can come in and jump on us on, like they came with the state that has legalized it. There is that discrepancy, but what we're doing here is perfectly within our jurisdiction, and no state or federal agency or branch of government has any say over that. We are within our purview of what we're doing. We are not going against anything, any guideline that they have made, or any law that they have made. So that was my argument about reducing the fine to zero and basically making the law non-existent through completely wiping out all the penalties. I mean, then you've basically nullified the law. And I don't think that's something we should do. I think that would, certainly the state, I don't know what they'd do, maybe they wouldn't do anything, but I think they would certainly be within their prerogative to do something. I don't know if they could hold state money that we would normally get, or what all could happen, but we could certainly be setting ourselves up for some liabilities. So we are still, have teeth to our law. We're still saying, yes, this is a law, it's illegal in Green Bay to have marijuana, but we are reducing, I think we're making the consequences more sensible and more practical, and reducing the caseload for the DA, which I think is certainly a very good thing for all. So, what do you want
I
to do?
got one idea here, and I don't know how, I'm sure you'll jump up in the air, but
I might.
you might. But looking at the whole thing that we're not legalizing this,
Mhm.
but if the scenario was that there would be no fine whatsoever, we're still not legalizing it, but the discretion for us would be no fine. It's still legal, illegal, I mean, no fine. I'm just throwing that out.
Right, and I just addressed that.
Well, you did, but I.
That you have basically nullified the law. You have basically nullified.
Are you a lawyer? Are you an attorney?
Yeah,
You
I have
are.
spoken with our attorney here. That you have basically nullified the law if you do away with, like we talked about with Monona. They have basically nullified the law, and they have basically thumbed their nose at state
I want to hear it
statute.
from her.
Well, she just said that.
Say it again.
I would not advise setting up an ordinance that would be contrary to state statute.
I have a question. How do you feel about Madison's ordinance?
That one, again, it kind of totes the line. I think police often aren't enforcing within people's homes. I think it would be a rare situation unless they're there for another reason.
That was
and
my
not probable
question.
cause. So I think that's kind of a moot point as far as not issuing within a residence, for possession within a residence, and otherwise, unless it's a prescription, which only you can only have CBD for a valid prescription in Wisconsin. Otherwise, if they are possessing, they do have a fine. It's just up to 100.
So there's been a little bit of discussion about referral on this one, to do a little bit more homework. And initially, I was kind of favoring that, only because I think that, as proposed, I don't think this goes far enough. But after I hear the dialogue, I've heard some of the public testimony on this one too, I think I've sort of logically switched my mind in the sense that I'd like to see you advance this onto council. I'd like to see the full council debate this issue. Primarily because we can offer amendments at the council level, and I suspect that you will see several amendments offered. And so, because of that, I'd like to suggest that we not refer this back to staff, that we take this issue on, that we'd be willing to have a public discussion about it. I'd like to have more discussion about toting the line and the leadership role that we can take as a community on that, while still upholding the law. I'd like to really have a frank conversation about things like more flexibility to enforce belligerent behavior that is likely caused because of this issue. And so I think there are going to be plenty of amendments that could potentially be offered up on this at the full council level. So because of that, I'd like to see it not referred, pass it as is, we'll debate it at the council.
And I think I too, because at committee, or at council, it'd be good to, I would like to hear other council members, how they feel about this. And not only could they be offering amendments, at council, we could decide to refer it back to this committee if people need more information. If there's information they feel they need to get, that's something we may end up doing at council after discussing it. And I think, I would like to see this go forward to get more input, see what the council thinks, and either we can amend, or it can get kicked back to us to look into whatever the council decides needs to be looked into. So I too kind of favor going forward with this and seeing where it ends up. I mean, it's not like it's, it could end up any number of ways. But I think I would like to see the full council discuss this. So I'm in favor of advancing it
As is.
as is. And we can, in the meantime, perhaps we could get some of that information on, that was brought up at the two questions at committee. And that could be shared at council.
My thoughts are I'd like to get the information first and then present it to city council. And then we can have our discussion at city council. I don't think it's gonna,
Will we have that in time?
well, whatever it would take the amount of time they would get to get the information as far as a 6-month backlog on what's taking place in the city of Green Bay and what the fines were and how many people were cited and, fined and whatever. I think that information is very critical as far as how we're gonna look at it as a city council. Is this really an issue or is it not an issue? I think that'll be the telling of, with the police department, what's really taking place and within our, in other words, within our, what's been done in the last 6 months. How many cases have been fined? How many people lost their driver's license? I think these are, if we got a 25 or 30 people that lost their driver's license, I'd sure like to know about it right now before we go any farther. If we haven't had that many people lose their driver's license, how many people were, and what were the fines? I don't think that's out of the question to, we've never really discussed this before. It's just been brought up here, Randy's brought it up here just in the last few months. I've not been on this committee before to begin with. So I think that the information is very critical, how we're handling it, right at how City Green Bay is handling it as far as the police department, how many people have been fined, and what the fines are, and I think that's the information we really want to know. Is this really a big deal or is it not a big deal? And I think that the statistics will tell us.
Well, for myself, I have no problem with an alder needing that information. I don't need that information, and I'm not sure how many other alders need that information to go forward with this. And especially since there are portions of this that may be fine that we could pass as a council next time and separate certain issues to go back to committee to be worked over. So I'm still in favor of moving this forward. I think because part of why I feel this is important to move forward is it says something about us as a city. Are we a progressive city that is cognizant of what's going on? I mean, it's legal in Michigan, it's legal in Minnesota, it's legal in Canada. This is an issue that isn't going to go away. What are we going to do to address this issue? And I think taking a progressive view and decriminalizing this to some, even if it's just as a symbolic gesture, I think says something about us as a community, as a city, and has an effect on how people see this community and want to be involved in this community. So I'm still in favor of going forward, and if the council feels this needs to get kicked back, fine. If there's enough of you that feel that way, or any part of it, I would really like to see broaden out this discussion and get more feedback from the council in general. See how this flies and adjust accordingly.
I'll defer to Alder Vanderlist. Did you want to make a motion to that effect? Or?
I'd make a motion that,
She's gonna make a motion to
Or
hold.
you could, well, whatever. I'm not.
I make a motion to hold the proposal until we get more information from the City of Green Bay Police Department.
Hold to the next meeting. for
It can be at the
staff.
our next
So-
committee meeting?
Just so that I have it, motion to hold to the next meeting, and for staff to bring back how many citations were issued in residences versus in public places, how many people have lost their driver's licenses in the last 6 months pursuant to a citation, and how many citations were issued in the last 6 months and the amounts.
That's correct, that would be fine.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Stoyer. Any other discussion? Okay, we better vote on this.
Nothing came up.
I voted. I guess my vote counts, so I won.
Alder Stevens, how would you like to vote?
What was it? Hold it, yes.
Vote yes? Yes to hold.
Is there 2 votes?
So Alderman Vanderleest?
To hold, so we get the information.
So yes. So
Thank
I
you.
would have Stevens for yes, Vanderleest for yes, Stoyer for yes, Scammell for no. So that passes.
3 to 1.
3 to 1.
So, motion, item number 4 will be held until our next protection and policy meeting, 2 weeks from now, and a vote from 3 to 1.
Can I have point of clarification? Just-
Certainly.
So this will still be on the council agenda, right?
No.
It
Well,
will-
the motion to hold it,
The motion to hold will be on the report, so this item can still be pulled at council.
That's what I'm saying.
right,
This item still can be pulled at council.
Correct.
yeah.
Okay, just curious about that. Thank you.
We ready to move on?
Yes.
We are on to liquor violation report from the police department for September 24th, 2018.
We did not have any liquor law violations over the last 2 weeks.
Wow, we are really on a roll.
Doing well.
Motion to receive and place on file by Alder Vanderleest, seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor? Aye. Public hearings. You hear them? Listen. You hear them?
I hear you.
I believe we are
At adjournment?
adjournment. Motion to adjourn it? Motion to adjourn by Alder Vanderleest. Second by Alder Stevens. All in favor of that? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Okay.
Log out. Make sure you log out.
Legal study that, it only causes death, heart disease, you know, but you can go right outside
here.
and smoke that, that's fine.
Right here, right here.
I always do.
Right here. You wanna go right